ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in here for a Tuesday night Murder Church Live. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Hit the old like ski on the YouTube and share it out on X. Share it out on whatever socials you guys hang out on. Appreciate it. Let's get in here for a spice. I'm suspecting some spice here. Dr. Werner Spitz and Alan Jackson got into it pretty heavily on Sunday morning, and I wanted to continue this. So let's go.
Let's rock.
We've made it, ladies and gentlemen. We've made it. I feel like I'm a little blurry. Hold on. I'm going to try to get that a little bit clearer. One sec. Welcome in. See if that helps a little bit here. Let's see if we can help it out a little bit anyways. Help it out any way we can. That's what I said. Yeah, that's a little bit clear. That's what I'm talking about. Welcome in here, fine folks of the Buzz Nation. We got a whole night planned out here. We're going to be doing an hour 14 here with Werner and Werner Spitz and Alan Jackson. And then we're going to be going into the book club. If you're not in the book club, the only way to be a part of this book club is to be a member here in the Buzz Nation. But hell yeah, get the hell in here, fine folks. Tina in the house, Pammy, Brooklyn, CH. Not let me forget this right here. Hold on. We'll start this out with the bells. BG. Shelly in the house. Hell yeah. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate y'all coming through here tonight. And we're going to jump in here in just a moment. Like I said, I've got a lot of cool stuff planned out this week. We're going to do part 2 of the Manson murders stream with Jack from Never a True Word on Sunday. Kind of got cut short on Sunday. He had something going on, and the time change was messing us up. But this Sunday we should be finishing that insane Charles Manson interview. And then Friday, though, I've got someone new coming in here to hang out on Feral Friday. I got Mo coming through. It's going to be super fun. We're going to watch the 1995 film Angus. I gotten her message today, and I was like, oh, she was down. First of all, I was like, hell yeah. But then, I was like, man, maybe we'll do the voting. You pick up some films, I'll pick some films. We'll let the people pick. But she said her first one she mentioned was Angus. I've not seen that movie since I rented it as a child in the 90s. So I was like, let's just do that. That sounds fucking fun. So, and I think Mo's going to fit right in on Feral Friday and have a good time with us. But yeah, welcome in here, everybody. Appreciate it. I'm not sure what the Thursday show is going to be, but it'll be something for sure. Of course, we're still working on a wheel. Oh, excuse me. Hiccups jumping through the beer there. Still working on a wheel. Got 3 names on a wheel right now, so if we can get one of those things finished up, that'd be cool. Or anybody that would like to get on that thing. Got Missy coming through here. What's up, Missy? And just speak of the devil right there. Gabby said, fuck it, let's go. Just stop by to leave this here. $5. Not only does he get the $5. Give me the loot. Give me the loot. Give us the $5.
I'm sober enough to know what I'm doing, and I'm drunk enough to really enjoy doing it.
Hell yeah. Starting us off hot here tonight on a murder church. On one of these here shows. But yeah, let's jump in here again. Without further ado, I got hopefully people are caught up. If you're coming over to the book club, the Buzz Nation book club, fuck yeah. That should start up around 9:25, 9:30. We'll see how this goes. And yeah, I've got some notes to go over there and just kind of shooting the shit with you guys on the first 2 chapters of The Stranger Beside Me. I've enjoyed it so far, and I just started the book. So let's jump in here. Let's stop talking and bullshit, and let's get in here. Hopefully everyone's having a fine Tuesday night. Hold on. Wrong one. Let me get the court TV. Boom.
The Honorable Larry Paul, Judge presiding.
All right, the parties, jurors, alternates, and the witness are present as heretofore, and you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Dr. Spix. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you.
Yesterday when we left off, Doctor, in the afternoon, we were discussing the...
It shouldn't take that long to get through if you're just starting. You can probably get through there by the time we start that live. And you've read that, right? That was on your shelf, which is even cooler.
The facts of this particular case that show or suggest... I'm sorry, I'll let everybody get settled. I didn't want to interrupt. We were discussing the facts that show or suggest that Philip Spector was in arm's length of Lana Clarkson when she was killed. And I want to follow up on that discussion a little bit and visit with you a little bit this morning about some of those facts that you may or may not have considered, and have a discussion about that. Yesterday, during direct examination, Doctor, you and Mr. Plord had a discussion about the position of Lana Clarkson.
We learned that this motherfucker, Werner Spitz, is making fucking ungodly amounts of money. He could buy multiple houses where I live. Especially during this time in 2007. $50K-ish, maybe more, between 3 trips to California.
Legs. And you've seen several photographs depicting her as she was found and photographed in the location. You recall those photographs?
Yes.
And basically, if I can take some leave with my description, suffice it to say she was seated basically in an upright position, leaning back against the chair. When she was photographed, her head was to the left. She was sort of inclined at an angle, if you will, and her legs were outstretched in front of her. Is that a reasonable description?
Yes.
Let's take a look at... let's take a look at what's been previously marked as People's 64. You may or may not have seen this particular exhibit, but I'm going to focus your attention, if you will, on photograph A. And I think Sudi can highlight that photograph for us. Okay, this is photograph A of People's 64. You see the position of Miss Clarkson's legs?
Yes.
All right, basically that's a pretty consistent position with all the photographs. In other words, there's no suggestion in any of the photographs that her legs were in any other position in the photographic evidence that you saw, correct?
I understand.
Yesterday when you...
Sorry. I understand.
Sing in the mic for us, sir. Ain't nothing but a hound dog.
Yesterday, when you were talking to Mr. Plord about the position of the legs, I
ain't ever shot a rabbit, ain't no friend of mine.
I believe I heard you say that, in your opinion, her legs may not have been in that position when she was actually fatally wounded. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, what do you base that? I want you to explain to us what you base that on and what you're talking about. What position do you believe her legs were in when she...
Jesus Christ. You're paying this man so much money. You have no faith. He's just pissed because Alan's going in on him. Jesus, bro. Fucking the devil's in this motherfucker.
He was fatally shot.
Well, first of all, I'm totally aware of situations where people who had been sitting when they died stretched out.
Sure.
And there is a very strong suggestion that she may have done the same thing because her dress is totally ruffled up and bunched as she came down sliding the chair on the chair. And the legs were presumably under her at the time the shot was fired, because there was no gunpowder residue, no blood that I'm aware of on the parts that were not accessible as this spurt came out, which would imply that the legs were bent under her, at least to that degree.
All right. Okay. But the other explanation, I suppose, Doctor, would be that the blood simply didn't spray that far. That would be another reasonable interpretation of those facts, correct?
I would still be left with the explanation that would be required for the skirt being pushed up the way it is.
Okay.
The picture almost indicates that.
All right. So you're indicating that based on the fact that there was no blood found on the legs, you believe the legs must have been tucked under her at the time of the gunshot.
Objection, that misstates the testimony.
I'm not sure that it does, and he can correct Mr. Jackson if he believes that's incorrect. Overruled.
Is that accurate?
I say that the legs were likely tucked under.
Okay. Pardon me for a second. I've got a frog in my throat.
Yeah, you foolish. Let's see what are you
And the
afraid of?
other reason that I think you gave us just now that you believe she moved after she was shot is because the skirt was bunched up around the upper part of the thighs, correct?
Because of that, and because I know that people who die often do that.
Okay.
That they move the head from one side to the other, they move their arms, and they move their lower extremities.
And yesterday you talked about you being aware of someone who moved, and I think you were describing to Mr. Plourde something that you had seen one time where someone was fatally wounded, shot to death. I think that was a self-inflicted wound, and the head moved back and forth, and the arm may have moved a little bit, correct?
In here, she said, yo, $2 holla, get on the train. Thank you so much, Jen. I appreciate that. Jen's always coming through here. Major giver. Not messing around, per the usual. God, yeah, we were up to like 5 names on this son of a bitch. Doing pretty good.
Well, a little bit more than that. That is an example that I have here in...
Oh, you went extra deep. I read my 3 chapters last night, Steve. I'd read it a long time ago, but didn't remember some of it. Yeah, we only needed to do 2 chapters, but no, that's awesome. That's you're ready. You're already 1 chapter deep for the next week. That's freaking sweet, dude. I enjoyed the 2 chapters that we've read so far, and I've learned some stuff about Ted Bundy. So, and I've got an ending here that I think is gonna trip everybody out once we get on there. Just the possibility of the way chapter 2 ended, and the years and the whereabouts.
Here with me.
All I'm asking about is that particular example.
He hasn't quite finished his answer, Mr. Jackson.
That is an example that I have here on a disc. Unquestionably a case that occurred and was photographed by the police during an interrogation. But I've seen it in other situations too.
Okay.
So it's not a one-time observation. I've got several such examples in my office.
Doctor, all I'm asking about is the one example that you gave yesterday with Mr. Plourde. The one that you were talking about was, the one that you were describing was videotaped in a police station where a person pulled out a gun and shot himself, correct?
That is one such example.
Okay, where did that person shoot himself?
In the head, in the right temple.
You're pointing to the right temple when you said it, correct?
Yes.
Okay, not, he didn't shoot himself in the back of the neck, for instance, and transect his spine in that case. That was
No, he did not shoot himself there.
Okay.
He shot himself in the right temple and was brain dead instantaneously.
And there was no suggestion that his spine was transected? Like,
No, his spine was not involved.
okay. But Lana Clarkson's spine was involved in this case.
Yeah, but she was just as brain dead.
Hey, Jen, gonna get a lurker back here. PJ Wolfwimmer's gonna become a member up in this bitch. PJ has the opportunity to also join the book club just because Jen was so kind to get him in here. Thanks, Jen. Appreciate that. And also, welcome the hell in here.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Love it.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
2 different wounds.
Halfway to a wheel already.
She had a shot in the mouth and was brain dead, and he had a shot in the temple and he was brain dead.
And her spine was transected and his was not. So electrical impulses from him could still travel down the spinal cord. Electrical impulses, if there were any, from her could not move from the brain to the body. Her spine was completely transected. Yes?
Whereas that is correct, but irrelevant, because the transmission of impulses down the spine has nothing to do with this.
All right. Now, let's get back to the legs. You indicated that you believed, based on the blood evidence at the scene, that her legs may have been tucked under her, correct?
like something like resembling what you're doing.
Okay, I don't know if the jurors can see me, and I'm using myself as an example, and I'll describe for the record what I'm doing. I'm seated normally in a chair with my feet together, basically my knees bent at a 90-degree angle, not necessarily tucked under me, but not out in front of me either. Basically, my shins are going straight down, perpendicular to the floor. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yes.
All right. Is this the position that you believe that Ms. Clarkson was likely in when she was shot?
Or even further in.
Okay, so even tucked under her more, like I'm tucking now. So maybe I've got a 10-degree angle going beneath my body or so, correct?
Yeah, something like that.
All right, and it's your opinion, your medical opinion, that if she was in this position here, that I'm in right now, after she was shot, that her legs shot out from in front of her and she scooted down the chair, correct?
Yes.
All right. Would you agree with me, doctor, that one reasonable explanation for her skirt being hiked up, or bunched up, as you put it, is if in fact she had a gun shoved in her face, she might be retreating from that gun and move down the chair. Is that reasonable in your opinion?
You mean that she voluntarily did that?
That she was voluntarily retreating from a gun being put in her face and may very well have slid down the chair as she retreated backward. Is that reasonable in your medical opinion?
If you saw the evidence that I have, you wouldn't ask me that question.
Okay, but I haven't seen that, so I am asking you that question.
Yeah.
And I'd like you to answer it, please.
The likelihood of that is remote. I don't say it doesn't exist. I don't say it's impossible. I'm saying it's remote in view of the fact that these kind of movements are not that infrequent at all.
All right, let's talk about something else. We've talked about the bunched up skirt. Are you aware of how long that skirt was when Lana Clarkson was standing?
No, but it was longer than what you see on the picture.
Well, clearly, it was longer than that. But do you know how long it was? How far down the thighs it came?
No, I don't. But as I say, it's bunched up.
Okay.
So it's, the way I reckon, at least down to half her thigh.
Okay. So you believe that the skirt may have come to mid-thigh area?
Or longer.
Or longer. All right. If I told you that the evidence suggested, well, let me ask you this. Have you ever seen a video of Lana Clarkson at the House of Blues walking around in that slip dress?
No, I've not.
Okay. You were not provided that by the defense?
No.
All right. Assume for purposes of my question that, in fact, your first assumption was correct, that that skirt came to mid-thigh, not down to the knees, all right, when she was standing. You agree with me? Assume that particular fact for purposes of my question. If she, in fact, sat down with a mid-thigh skirt, that skirt would come up.
You guys are too much in here tonight. Thank you so much, Pammy, coming through. $4.99. I'm coming. Had to gather my train hopping boots. Choo choo. Train. Hell yeah, I added the train myself.
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Thank you so much, Pammy. Appreciate it.
Hanging, banging.
Yeah. Let me get you on here, Pammy. Bringing this up just a little bit closer. A little bit closer now. A little bit closer now. And then Jersey Jen going to gift out another one. Scarlet Bagpipes hanging out back there. Jen said, I'm not done yet. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate that, man. Absolutely unbelievable. The Buzz Nation always coming through representing. Can barely hear me. Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, let me turn it a little. Ladies and gentlemen. There we go. What the hell? It was a little bit low. Out here fighting me. It's always fighting me. Thanks for that. Thanks for the heads up, though, Pammy.
Up even a little further. Just based on, basic fashion physics, I guess it'd be called, correct? I just coined a new phrase.
Well, I'm not very much into fashion.
You and me both, Doc. But you would agree with me that the skirt couldn't be any longer. It's going to be a little shorter when she sits down.
Sure.
Just like my pant legs are a little shorter when I sit down.
Sure.
All right. And you'll also agree with me that she's a long-legged gal, correct?
That's another thing that I really don't know.
You're aware that
she presents, for everybody to see. There is a picture of Lana Clarkson.
Okay, and she was some 6 feet tall, close to 6 feet
She's
tall.
5'11", yeah.
All right. As she sat, it wouldn't really matter where her calves and her
fuzzy.
feet were. From mid-thigh,
That's all freehand.
At least mid.
Except for this, this is a number 9. But this right here, this entire goatee was all freehand, which is, I'm very proud of it because I usually fuck it up. But this has still got, it's good. It's good. Thank
thigh
you.
down to her knees, that would be exposed at all times, correct?
Yes.
The bells, yeah. You did
You're
miss the
also aware
bells,
that there was
Simmy.
no blood spatter, none, 0, found on her thighs or her knees, correct?
There was no GSR found on her thighs.
GSR is what he said.
There was no GSR or blood spatter found on her thighs or knees.
Yes.
You're also aware that James Pex, one of the defense experts, opined that if in fact no blood spatter was found beneath the hem of the skirt, that reasonably is the distance that the back spatter went. He's the back spatter expert, or one of them, and he opined that in fact the back spatter stopped at a boundary about the hemline of her skirt, as you see it on the photograph. You're aware of that.
There were other factors. That was one possibility. So you can redirect if you want. You can go through the other possibilities.
Thank you.
All right.
Are you aware that he testified generally to that fact?
Yeah.
That doesn't state that wasn't.
Wait, it was the way you're stating it. It's though it was his only. There were other. He discussed various possibilities.
I'll restate it. I'll restate it. I think I can clear it up. Are you aware that Jim Pex indicated that no back spatter being beneath the hemline of the skirt was suggestive of the outer boundary of the back spatter being basically the hem of the skirt?
Hellcat, welcome in.
Okay. Are you aware that that Stuart James suggested that if in fact no back spatter was found on the legs and knees,
I always get nervous.
That would indicate that the back spatter.
That's why I let it grow. That's why I let the beard grow fucking so long this time. I swear it was 5 inches I cut off, dude. And it was definitely that big. It was out of the screen. Like it was down below this like cap right here. So it was at least right here. I mean, that's a lot of length I got off that sumbitch.
At this scene, that the back spatter stopped.
Hey, we'll do some more bells right now. Brooklyn, Simi, I got you. Don't even fret. Let's go. Double bells in the house tonight. Double bells for the nation, baby. Everybody coming through. Dude, I'm going to go full shaved. What I actually wanted to do, and I just didn't do it, and I still want to, I want to do all of this the same length, like even the chin, and have like this stash be here. Just like a decent little stash. Maybe cut it like right there. Like nothing, like don't go long, but like just a nice, I just don't know. I don't know.
At about the hemline where the back spatter
it can always grow back,
was found and was found no further. You're aware that he testified?
I know I was not.
You didn't review either one of their testimonies?
Love that, guys. Thank you.
You reviewed parts of it, but not
double
every instance.
Sure, that's fine. That's fine. Assume for my question that, in fact, the spatter stopped at the hemline of her dress, and nothing was found on her hose, on her legs, on her knees. Nothing was found on her shins or on her shoes.
I understand.
Given that fact, it wouldn't matter where her shins
Food
and
would
shoes
get up in
were
there.
For purposes of the blood, if in fact her knees and legs, the
crummies
top
up in
of her
your
thighs
beard?
were still
That ain't
exposed
no
to the gunshot, correct? In other words, that wouldn't be a determining factor in your mind because the thighs would be exposed.
Well, it's not a determining factor, other than that it's another link in the chain of thoughts as to her slipping down on the seat with her skirt bunched up. I don't go for this idea that this indicates that she protected herself and that this was a defensive position.
What
that
if we
she
paid
held on the
you?
chair. It's just, in view of what else goes on here, it's not a very plausible position.
So you believe, if I can move you for a second, you believe that it is unreasonable, in your medical opinion, unreasonable to infer from the facts that if I held a firearm in my hand in a threatening manner against the person seated in the chair, that the natural reaction might be to back up and retreat from that deadly weapon. That is an unreasonable assumption in your medical opinion?
In view of the fact that I personally think that you would use your arms, you would have this is a peaceful position she is in.
Well, she's dead, Doctor. It's peaceful now. I'm talking about what happened in the 2 minutes before she ended up in that position.
She is, like they say,
I've changed completely on this Spitz guy, bro.
I'm talking about she is not in a commotion.
Like, I really enjoyed him with the defense, but man, I think Alan Jackson, it's whatever. These dudes get paid a shit ton, and he's a renowned doctor, yada yada. These guys I've never heard anybody get paid that much. $50K for 3 trips to Los Angeles. That's insane. But still, dude, this guy was all over the place with his answers, like dodging shit, because Alan Jackson's really good. No matter how you feel about him and the Karen Reed stuff, whatever. The dude is good at what he does, and that's why he makes big bucks representing people like Weinstein and Kevin Spacey. I mean, he's very fucking good.
Position here. If somebody holds a gun in my face, I wouldn't be sitting there waiting for the gun to go off.
And of course, you're not Lana Clarkson, and you weren't in the house of a stranger, and you didn't, in fact, have a gun held in your face. So what you would do is sort of irrelevant. We're looking at the facts of this case.
I'm talking about what's reasonable. And I think that I'm a reasonable person. I think you are a reasonable person. I think most people are reasonable people. And they would probably all react in a similar fashion. So I find a body slumped over a chair like this.
9, so 3 more to a spin, guys.
That is, to you, as you now ask me, seems to be suggestive of a certain mechanism of infliction of this gunshot wound. No, I disagree there, especially since I'm aware that there are lots of other situations where the same identical situation occurs, and there's no gun involved.
As a matter of fact, you're aware of at least 4 other almost identical situations to this, where Philip Spector has held a gun on an unarmed woman, and she didn't. In any of those situations, she didn't fight back. She did what he said she should do.
When is St.
Either
Patrick's
stay in the
Day?
chair,
We gotta watch a
go
Leprechaun movie on
upstairs,
Pro Friday
sit
too,
down,
so.
don't move, or whatever. You're aware of all of those, correct?
Overruled.
You're aware of those situations, yes?
I'm aware of a history of several situations where a gun was involved with other people.
Gotta
I'm
watch
not
a
aware
Leprechaun
in what
movie.
position exactly they
Maybe
were
watch Leprechaun in
as
Space.
compared
Or
to
we
this
watch The
position
Hood
or
One.
to any other
I actually
position.
don't remember.
All right. So you weren't provided all of the details about Mr. Spector's history with women and guns.
No, I don't say that.
Okay.
I say I'm not aware in what position they were. I'm aware that there were occurrences years before that involved Mr. Spector and guns. But to say to you that I'm aware of their position at the time, whether they were sitting, standing, lying, whatever position they may have had within those confines of sitting, standing, or whatever it was, I do not know.
Getting back to the backspatter, if in fact the backspatter was limited, assume for purposes of my question, if the backspatter, Dr. Spitz, was limited to a distance about the hem of the dress, and if backspatter experts indicated that the defendant had high velocity, or what they called impact spatter, on his jacket, that would place the jacket, whoever was wearing the jacket, that would place the jacket
Jen, you're the
within the
best.
boundary of about the distance of the hem of her skirt, correct?
What up, Jack? Assumes facts not in evidence.
It's one possible. There were others, so it's going to have to be asked in a different fashion. You can ask the question, but you have to do it in a different fashion.
Are you aware that other defense experts have indicated that the spatter on the defendant's jacket could reasonably be interpreted as being impact spatter?
Get you vague as to what matters.
Overruled.
I'm aware of that.
are you aware that Stuart James said that there may be a couple of spots of satellite spatter on the jacket, but that would not account for all the spatter on the jacket? Are you aware of that?
Objection Vegas to the location.
Overruled.
I'm aware that Mr. James suggested that there were some spatters that were satellite or could be satellite.
Okay. Are you aware?
The testimony, the way I understood it of Mr. James, was that it could be any one of three possibilities that might have resulted in the staining of the jacket.
And I've said it on here before, but that one episode of Twilight Zone when they, old dude died and like his dog died too, and like they're walking down the road to basically get into heaven. He gets the first one that's hell. He's like, oh, you can't bring that dog in here, and he's like, the dog ain't coming, I ain't coming. And he keeps on going down. He ends up finding heaven, but that's me, bro. Like, man.
You're aware that he indicated that if it wasn't expirated blood,
I don't give a shit,
that the rest of the blood that wasn't satellite spatter, and he accounted for a couple of drops that could be satellite spatter in his mind, that he accounted for the rest of it as impact spatter. You're aware of that, correct?
Again, overruled.
I feel awkward about second-guessing or interpreting what Mr. James said.
I'm not asking, no, doctor, you misunderstand my question. I'm absolutely not asking you to interpret what Mr. James said. By your own admission, you're not a backspatter expert. He is. I'm just asking you if you're aware of what his testimony was. If you're not, it's okay.
Well, what I already said that I understood his testimony to be is any one of, or maybe all of those three possibilities of expired blood, impact blood, and satellite staining. And you talked to me yesterday in the hallway, and in the absence of anybody, except I think Mr. Pruitt was there and Mr. Dixon was there, and you asked me about that, and I told you my opinion at that time.
Right, and we'll get to that in just a second. I'm going to talk to you about that in just a second. All I'm asking about now is what you're aware of insofar as other defense experts have stated concerning the jacket. Let me ask it this way. You're aware that Stuart James indicated that if it was satellite spatter on the jacket, he had to be within a couple of inches of Lana Clarkson. Yes?
Yes.
You're aware that he indicated that he would leave it to pathologists to determine, but he had no indication that this was expirated blood. And pathology is not his expertise, spatter is not your expertise, so we'll leave it at that. You're aware that he's basically
said that. Well, you've got one sitting right here.
You're misunderstanding my question. I'm asking you some foundational questions, doctor. You're aware that he said that he was unaware of any expirated blood, and he was not accounting for the back spatter on the jacket as being expirated blood, to his knowledge.
Objection. That misstates his statement.
What's the misstatement?
He said he couldn't tell whether there was some breathing event. The pathologist would have to tell you that. He definitely said it could be expirated if that breathing event occurred.
I understand that, but I don't think that makes the question inappropriate. You can raise it and redirect. The objection's overruled. You may proceed.
Thank you. You're aware that he indicated he had no knowledge, he was unaware of anybody that had said that this was expirated blood.
Him and Kitty Bond are the best ones.
I don't know what he said here.
I've had a little break from Rosen.
Okay. Well, I'm not worried about what he said to you.
Next time he comes up, I've got an article from Shelley, Pokemon Center.
As a matter of fact, before you said that there could be expirated blood, that doesn't show up anywhere in this case, correct?
I don't know if it shows up or not.
And Dr. DeMaio is a pathologist, and he didn't say this was expirated blood, correct?
No, Mr. Jackson, please take notice
Mr. Jackson.
that I speak for Will Spit. I don't speak for Mr. Mayor or for Mr. James or for Mr. Anybody.
They gave me all the money that I will say anything that you need.
To your knowledge.
My name's Will Spit. That's interesting to know.
And you've referenced Dr. Pena's reports, and you're aware that he didn't say that there was expirated blood.
Dr. Pena.
Don't you put Dr. Pena's name in any kind of ill will. That man was a saint.
describes
Had his old emoji here for a minute.
unequivocally
He's laying pipe
inhalation.
all up in this motherfucker.
taking in blood from this area, obviously, because that's the only part that bleeds, into the bottom part of the respiratory system, which is all the way down in the lung, deep as far as it'll go in the lung. The only thing that would prevent it from going further is because that's the end. The lung doesn't go any further. That cannot occur as from dropping down there by gravity or any other way.
We'll talk about that in just a second. All I'm asking you, once again, I'm trying to stay on focus here. All I'm asking you.
Dude, you know that thing that people do when they're like, I mean, I used to do it too. If you're in like school and like a teacher kind of can like, you can get them off their train of thought if you start rambling a little bit or you start going a different direction, and then that'll also take their mind in a different direction. That's what this fucking dude is trying to do to Jackson at all times. And Jackson is so smart, it's not going to work. Like, he's always on his point and keeps it, really keeps it on task. But man, that's exactly what Warner Spitz is doing, in my opinion.
Is in his report, Dr. Pena did not say that there could be expirated blood, correct? Is that yes or no?
We're right there. We're getting close.
He implies
Get some cool
it.
stuff.
Okay, and in his testimony, he didn't imply anything. He specifically said she could not expirate blood. You remember that, right?
No, he did
That's
not.
probably insanity.
He did not. He said that she
I'll
could have
struggle.
taken some shallow breath.
I don't know,
That's what he
making
said.
it.
Right. And
The
she
fact to
could
own a
not
house and a car
breathe
and
out.
doing
Correct.
it's
But if you take shallow breath, you need to breathe out in order to breathe in. There's not an indeterminable
Very
amount
lucky.
of
Very lucky
or
person.
unlimited amount of space in the lung. If you breathe out, you have to breathe. If you breathe in, you have to breathe out.
Dr. Spitz, I promise you I'm not arguing with you. We're going to be here a long
I'm
time.
trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you what is possible and what is not
Phil.
All
possible.
right, if you could just answer my question.
If you could just stop fucking talking and rambling for 5 goddamn minutes and answer one straightforward question, we wouldn't be here for 16 goddamn. What the fuck are you doing?
I would like that.
Well, it's actually another $5,000 for you, isn't it, today?
No, don't worry about that.
Oh shit!
I'll bet you're not worried.
How
about
much money you getting to pay today, you son of a bitch? Hell, you can stay here. If you keep stretching it out, that's another 5 G's. That's another 5 G's. That's another 5 G's.
I've got plenty of money. The only thing I don't have is time.
Oh
Well
God!
said. And well said. We're getting a little bit off the track, and I'm going to try to get us back on the track. All right? I was
luck.
asking you about Mr. James and Mr. Pex. Both of them indicated that, let's say that if it was expirated blood, okay, that had to have occurred within inches of Lana Clarkson.
That misstates it.
He's asking the
I'm
question.
asking the
That's
question.
correct. He's not stating anybody else's answer, so the objection is overruled.
Is that correct?
Would you do me a favor and say it again?
Sure.
I like this
If
guy
it was
too.
Expirated blood's
crazy
only
how
going
it
to go a
flipped.
few inches.
Expirated blood will go depending on how much force there's behind it.
Right, but you already indicated that there would be no force behind it because it would be passive.
Just a second. I believe he had not finished his answer. You need to slow down a little, Mr. Jackson. Had you finished your answer, Doctor? About
But I
expirated
don't
blood?
remember what I was going to say.
You were indicating about how far expirated blood would go.
I didn't know. I've done forgotten
depends
which
on-
bullshit line I was feeding the jury here. Excuse me.
Just imagine yourself coughing,
Not losing your mind right now.
terminally
Imagine.
expelling the last gasp or one of the last gasps, and lips being, because there's no tone, lips falling on top of each other, mouth looks like it's closed, and the sound would be something like, well, how far would that go? 2 feet, 3 feet? It's when we talk about a spatter that occurs from this kind of a thing, from this terminal thing, it depends with what intensity that terminal cough would transpire. And it's not only a few inches, obviously.
I have no idea where that ended up, so I'm gonna try to get us back on
What's
focus.
happening, bro?
Doctor, I don't have a question for you right now.
Sorry.
Please, allow me to ask some questions and see if we can get us back on track, and we'll get through this a lot faster, okay?
Oh my God, dude.
If in fact this
Yep.
was impact spatter, and you know what impact spatter means,
Yeah.
okay? And
I am
if
on like
the
my.
impact spatter
This
ended
might even
up
be my
on
fourth beer. I ain't
Phil
gonna lie.
Spector's jacket.
I got home, I cooked.
That impact spatter.
It's either 3 or 4.
If it
Well,
was
if I lost
the
count,
same
it's probably
pattern,
4.
basically the same pattern and distribution as what appeared on the skirt down to the hemline, that would place the jacket approximately where, in your opinion?
This occurs from this impact spatter would have occurred from a shot in the mouth with a containment of the initial collection of material, blood,
Oh, frog.
spinal fluid,
It's a good entrance with your
Tissue.
name.
gunpowder, smoke, all those things in a confined place. And
That's true.
right after, not instantaneously after, but
So-
within a
Just to tease it, in the book club, after all of my notes and we all go through everything, I'm going to be reading in the chat. I want you guys to throw everything you have in there as well. We're going to go back and forth. I'm going to end mine with a crazy, I'm going out on a limb with like something. At the end of chapter 2, it's 1969 and he's in San Francisco. I'm just going to tie something together. The possible potentiality.
millisecond after, this would all come out. And that can travel in a shot like that in the mouth for, as far as I'm concerned, 6 feet or more.
All right. So your opinion, and again, you're not a backspatter expert.
That's right.
You're simply saying, in your opinion, that even if there was no blood found anywhere beyond about the hem of her skirt, not beyond the chair, not beyond the arm of the chair, not on her legs, not on her knees, not on her shoes, not on the carpet in front of her, not on the carpet surrounding the chair, that jacket could still be 6 feet away based on
Having a good one
the
here.
single gunshot. That's what you're saying.
Yes, that's
Honestly, I just wish we could have Jackson and Spitz the rest of this trial. Can they just take on the roles of everyone else? Because this is entertaining. This is actually fun to watch.
Excuse me, overruled. It is
Oh,
a form
shit.
of a hypothetical.
You done pissed off
You may answer
fucking
the
Judge
question.
Diehard.
That's what I'm saying.
Judge Bruce Willis is like,
because
nope.
if the velocity is of the spray is adequate, you wouldn't have the spray close by. You would have more spray
Wait, this
further
guy.
over.
What's up?
So in your opinion, the spray
Welcome
that came
in
out
here.
of her mouth, Mr. Spector was so unlucky that he happened to be standing in the one spot 6 feet away where every single impact spatter hit him, and nothing hit the ground in front of him, hit anything behind him, hit the carpet, nothing. All of it ended up on his jacket. That's what you're saying.
I'm not checking. As soon as the fact not evidence or facts not evidence, just for the record.
When you
The
say
objection is
all,
overruled. You may answer.
when you say all, it sounds like you have a bucket full of this stuff. No, that's, you have all, he's got all of, 18 spots? And that includes some which are certainly not.
I keep thinking about asking Josh to come on here. I bet he would.
Like down here, on where
do
he
some kind of
wiped
case or
something
something, look
and
at
some of the blood went down on his sleeve on both sides. Imagine, for the sake of discussion, that you take a container and you spray it on the wall.
I think she's
You
good. She's
spray
the
it
best
away from
one
you.
after Jackson. And
You're
then,
going to have
I like poured too. I love
fluid
poured, but
next to you?
Linda's good.
Probably not. The fluid is going to go over there. And the farther you go, the less the more, the larger the diameter, but the less individual stains are going to hit.
If anybody goes back and watches the very first episode with the opening statements, either the first or second, because the opening's like 6 or plus hours, maybe more than that. Cutler, the mob boss lawyer that's with Spector, did an opening. All right, it was fucking rambly, just crazy, quite frankly. And I was like, all right, well, this is nuts. And then Linda Kinney Bodden did a second separate opening, which I've never seen. This trial is also fucking insane. I feel like they're just breaking all the rules. But, yeah, and I was like, whoa, okay. Instantly, she was making me question stuff. And even as I went through this, I tried to always kind of go back to, I do honestly feel like that, accident or not, however you want to put it, because he's done this many different times. I don't know if he meant to pull the trigger, but it ended up happening. I think it happened because of Phil Spector and he's a psychopath. But I still like to also dabble in the questioning of the possibilities of her doing it to herself. But Linda, dude, she was awesome.
The target. And on a white jacket, you'd probably find all or most of them. Mr. Spector had, I think, 18, 17 or 20 such spots on the left side of the left panel of his jacket.
So in your opinion, and you agree that according to all the experts, all of them, including the defense experts, you agree that Miss Clarkson had spatter on her slip dress, correct? All right. So what you're saying, what you're telling this jury, is that when the gunshot went off, Dr. Spitz, spatter came out of her mouth, traveled onto her slip dress, then jumped and skipped her thighs and knees, skipped her legs and shoes, jumped over the carpet, traveled in a tight formation, and landed just on the left panel of his jacket. That's what your testimony is.
The way you're describing it is probably correct. Well, let me.
It really has just been rambling today.
That the amount of spray that she sustained is really quite small. So it comes out of here. It comes out of here. The nose would possibly generate some spray as well. The mouth would generate spray. And a few of those particles would come on her. Maybe they didn't come on the knee because the knee was not available to be spattered on. The knee was pointing down, or maybe was on a downward slope, and did not get it. I cannot talk about what there isn't.
Explain to me what you mean.
It's the way you were sitting, the way you were sitting earlier, and the way I was going to show it yesterday. I wasn't allowed to do it, but you obviously did it. If I'm with my knees like this, if you looked at that picture, at that video that I wanted to show, I would have glad if you saw it in your own place. You wouldn't ask me that because it's quite obvious.
You really don't know what I would ask you, Doc. Just explain your answer. Well, how could the knees be in such a position that they couldn't get spat on?
Well, they probably could, but they're not really accessible.
I see.
They're not really that accessible.
How are they not accessible?
Well, if I'm spattering this way,
okay,
there might be a few sprays that come down, but they don't go on my knees.
I see. So the blood spatter came out.
Do I have to have spray on my knees? No, I don't have to.
See. So in your opinion, in your expert medical opinion, as a forensic pathologist, the back spatter came down at such an angle that it covered her skirt, and then decided it's going to stop at the hem and move its course to a trajectory 6 feet away.
I'll look that up for later.
And not find anything else in the path, but then find Philip Spector, and not just all over Philip Spector, but just on the left panel of his jacket, and spray on the left panel of his jacket. That's what you're saying.
Overruled. No, you sound like those people who objected to or who brought up the magic bullet theory in President Kennedy. That the bullet
Whoa, this is Spitz just dropping names because he worked on the JFK assassination. All right, he worked with the body after the assassination, I should say. What the fuck? He's just like, listen, I don't know if y'all know this or not. I've done some shit, pal.
Zigzag.
You know what, Doctor, I'm going to stop you at this point and object that it's not responsive.
Sustain.
Let's stay away from Kennedy, okay? We got enough problems in this trial. Let's stay away from that. Answer my question. Is that what you're...
Yeah, always, every conversation. It's like, oh, that's all Werner. Everything leads back to JFK. Every single thing I've talked to the man about in the last 65 years, it goes right back to Kennedy. Every fucking time.
Suggesting to this jury happened with that backspatter.
I'm suggesting to this jury that the spatter is on the jacket, is not a mist pattern, is not a aerosol type pattern, and is not from, it's not a high velocity type pattern. These are larger droplets that hit the left panel because Mr. Spector, with that jacket on, happened to have been standing several feet away. And that this occurred from her breathing.
You're aware that Stuart James, one of the defense paid experts in this case, completely disagrees. And one of the top blood spatter experts around, so he says, completely disagrees and says, in fact, everything that was on his jacket, with the exception of the transfers, the stuff that was on his jacket was high velocity spatter.
I'm very surprised.
Doctor, just a second.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I think it's one of the possibilities he discussed, and I think it should be asked in that fashion, so I'm going to sustain the objection.
Sure. You're aware that Stuart James indicated that the pattern on the jacket was mostly millimeter and sub-millimeter sized particles, consistent with high velocity spatter, correct? You're aware of that?
I did not discuss that with him. So
right. But of course you would defer.
I did not discuss the particulate matter with him. I discussed with him whether he thought the spatter was consistent with a spread of particles.
Doctor, I'm asking you what you're aware of as far as his testimony.
Excuse me, this is hearsay that he's bringing in. It's not responsive to the question. Your objection is overruled. If you want to restate your question, you may.
All I'm asking you, it's very simple. All I'm asking you is if you're aware that that was his testimony in this courtroom. I'm not asking you about discussions outside the courthouse.
No, I'm not aware of that.
All right. You, of course, would defer, as a medical expert, you would defer to those in the other sciences, forensic sciences, that have more experience in that field. For instance, a backspatter expert. You would defer to his expertise, correct?
You know, at this point, I don't know what I'm deferring and what I'm not deferring. Let me tell you that I would defer anything to anybody if I didn't see it myself.
All right,
if I saw it myself, and not just once, but many times, when I come to scenes, I have a body lying there or sitting there or whatever position the body may be in, and there's a blood spatter because there was a shooting.
How many of those scenes, Dr. Spitz, have you seen blood spatter come out in a spray, go to a certain distance, then skip everything else and find one particular target? How many times have you seen that?
Sir, this is spray on the move. This isn't spray
That's objection, non-responsive. How many times have you seen what I just described?
I've seen not spray that deliberately, as you put it, maybe you didn't use the word deliberately, but you put a thinking mechanism into the spray. That doesn't, obviously that doesn't apply. But I have seen many times where a spray would go a certain way and there's something on the way that it didn't hit.
As a matter of fact, may I, Your Honor?
Yes.
You indicated that when, and you used this example, Dr. Spitz, and I want to start foundationally with this. You said if you spray something in a wall, the further it gets away from you, the larger diameter that pattern's going to have, correct?
Yes.
You're aware that the pattern that appeared on Phil Spector's jacket was basically limited to the left panel of his jacket from about mid-breast to about the hem of the jacket,
That's correct.
All right. A relatively small and narrow pattern.
No, I think it's a large pattern.
Well, relatively speaking, I mean, as opposed to a pattern that would fill this wall. The relatively narrow pattern on his jacket, correct?
Yes.
All right. Isn't the more
He
reasonable
hates everything
explanation,
right now.
Doctor, not with forgetting all the hopping over and jumping over stuff and finding a target, isn't the more
Alan
reasonable
Jackson
explanation
is
simply
fucking
that
amazing
Philip
at thinking
Spector's
on his
jacket
feet, like,
was
it's
closer
crazy.
in proximity to the backspatter or the blood-letting event when that
He's so
gunshot was fired?
well-worded.
Isn't that more reasonable?
No, it's not more reasonable
Why is
because you would have not 18
Well, Red is also, I mean,
little
he
dots
knows
on him.
so
How many would you
much.
have?
Objection? Didn't let him finish.
He hadn't finished his question.
Sorry.
You would have a much different density on there. Not a. You saw the picture yesterday that was shown.
I've seen the
where,
ice cream man one on Court TV before. I don't know what it's about either.
The back spray.
We'll probably do
was
another
illustrated.
Feral Friday where we do a
I know
voting
it's an
contest,
illustration.
and we'll throw
But
those.
the
I'll tell you what, I'll make a
density of
I'll make a
such
list right now. and We'll throw those
spray
on
is
there.
comparable.
How about
You
that?
have a large amount of destroyed tissue. You have a large amount of blood. You have blood under arterial blood pressure that is suddenly opened and available to be sprayed out. That occurs instantaneously because you make a hole in a high-pressure vessel and that spurts out like a fireman's hose.
Like a
Ice cream
fireman's
man
hose.
and
Yes, like a
That's-
fireman's hose.
that's what your testimony
Let me,
is.
let me suggest to you.
Doctor, all I'm asking you, is that your testimony like a fireman's
Well-
hose? Yes or no?
got two on the
It
list.
sprays out very intensely.
Didn't you testify just yesterday under direct examination with Mr. Plord that in fact there wasn't much backspatter in this case? Didn't you say that yesterday?
I don't remember saying such
All
a thing.
right. Isn't it
Can we
true
read it
that
back?
the actual wound was at the back of a human being's throat, and that
See,
throat
I-
is
I-
covered by
if we ever do
cheeks
that one,
and
it'll be down the
gums
line.
and mucosa and teeth, and there
That
had
one's
by
incredibly
necessity,
long. I think
there
it's
had
longer
to
than
be
this
an
one.
object in the only orifice, which is the mouth. Wouldn't you agree with
I
that?
need some quickies.
I don't understand what the question is.
Wouldn't you agree that in fact the
That's
backspatter
what
in
she
this
said.
case would
That's
generally
what she
be
said.
limited?
The back spatter would be that which occurs.
Casey Anthony,
from
just because she's in the
a
news. Keep making content, and I'll do that one.
wound by a 38 caliber missile
No, I mean we can put it on
into
there.
an
That's
area
that's a
that is
very
highly
popular one.
vascularized. That means it's got
Mendez
a lot
Brothers
of blood
also, I
vessels.
think it's on the
It's got a lot of
Court TV.
arterial blood supply, which is under arterial pressure, which is the type of pressure that yields if you cut an artery, that easily
That's
will go
crazy.
to a 12-foot ceiling. I've seen it happen.
Did she, doctor?
I'm sorry.
She didn't cut an artery, did she?
No, she didn't.
represented
No,
some
there was
folks,
no
huh?
missile that cut an artery in Lana Clarkson, was there?
Well,
She
that's
should bring her on her
So that's sort of
show.
irrelevant, isn't it?
No, that's not irrelevant at all because
I would get some views,
there is
like-
no. You mean it didn't cut the aorta, or it didn't cut the carotid artery, but
Correct.
it cut arteries.
Correct. It didn't cut the carotid artery that,
Well,
that you're talking about spraying to the ceiling. I mean,
Excuse me,
that's
sir, but every artery has the same pressure. The smaller arteries don't have any less pressure than the big arteries.
So doctor, where's the blood on the ceiling at this crime scene?
I'm not suggesting that there is because the face didn't point to the ceiling.
Well, where's the blood across the carpet on the crime scene? If that's going out like a garden hose or like a fireman's hose, as you said, where's all the blood all over the crime scene with this fire hose of blood just spraying everything?
Well,
Where is that?
That is the blood
Little
spatter.
Friday and kick.
And you saw her slip dress, did you not?
I did not see any material evidence.
I mean, he's literally
You
just
never
saying
went
what
around
works
saying
in the
I
moment.
did not see all the information that I have based on that I saw on the pictures of the jacket and the other clothes.
Getting flustered.
I did not
Doctor-
see the actual clothes.
Don't you think, as a professional, as an expert in this case, as a
Like
forensic
somebody unzipped her
scientist,
pants.
don't you think
Look
that it
out.
would be important before you sit up here in front of this jury and opine about...
Dude, this guy's talking about blood spewing like it's fucking Kill Bill. like it's fucking like a fucking Japanese gore fest.
Blood being sprayed by fire hoses and blood jumping over kneecaps and thighs. Before you did that, don't you think it would be important and competent of you...
This episode is directed by Quentin Tarantino.
At least look at the evidence in the case, like the slip dress? Wouldn't that be important?
Well, you know, maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. I don't know that it is necessary. For that, I have photographs. I have the ability to talk to the other experts, and I have the knowledge to interpret those. And certainly, I never used the terminology that you used, that the blood jumped over
I've thought about that one.
It's not my
about every time so
terminology, and the blood
actually, it was on the
certainly
voting
didn't do
list last time.
All right, Doctor, let's...
That's right. Yep.
Let's change gears just a second. You mentioned the
Whoa,
expirated blood.
shit. That's crazy.
You mentioned it yesterday, and you've mentioned it a couple of times today.
Connection.
What is a neuropathologist?
Neuropathology or neuropathologist?
Either one. Just explain what it is, what the study is, and...
Wow,
A neuropathologist is a pathologist who specialized in the pathology of the brain.
All right. Do you know Dr. John Andrews?
No.
You're not aware that he is, in fact, a neuropathologist?
No.
Do you know Dr. Hideo Itabashi?
No.
Sure. Hideo, H-I-D-E-O. Itabashi, I believe it's I-T-A-B-A-S-H-I. Are you aware that he's a neuropathologist?
No.
Are you aware that Dr. Pena, in his testimony, indicated that he consulted, not only did he make his own findings, but he also consulted with two independent neuropathologists, Dr. John Andrews and Dr. Hideo Itabashi, both of whom indicated that Lana Clarkson was immediately deceased upon the gunshot and the transection of the spine, and that after that, there would be no volitional movement. I think you would agree with that, correct?
Yes.
Misstates the evidence of hearsay.
Overruled, overruled, overruled.
And they also indicated upon consultation, according to Dr. Pena's testimony and his consultation with them, that in fact, Lana Clarkson could not expirate blood. Are you aware of that?
That cracked me up, Jeannie.
Overruled. It's one, he has criticized some of Dr. Pena's conclusions. This is the basis of Dr. Pena's conclusions. It also goes to his opinion. The objections are overruled.
I'm sorry, the answer was, I just asked you if you were aware of what they indicated, what Dr. Pena's testimony was in his consultation.
Would you tell me what it was?
That she could not, in fact, expirate blood.
Well,
are you aware or are you not aware that that's his testimony, Doctor? That's all I'm asking.
I'm aware, but I'd like to explain it.
You'd like to explain the fact that you're aware?
No, not the fact that, yes, that I'm aware, yes.
Okay, you can explain that in just a second. I'll ask you another question. I'm sure you'll get a chance to explain it, or Mr. Plourde can ask you the question.
Spicy. This has been great.
That Lana Clarkson may have expirated blood. We may be using the wrong word here. I want to make sure we
maybe
start
my
with
favorite
the right definition.
witness yet. I don't know. There's been some good ones. Pena was good.
When you say that she expirated blood, you're not talking about
pumpkin
blowing or
I mean that one lady. I don't remember her name, but she was
sneezing,
fucking awesome.
correct? That's not what you're talking about.
For the sake of the reporter, Mr. Jackson made certain noises to go along with the phrases that he used. I'll let her use her interpretation.
Boom! Pow!
I'm not sure about
full
that.
Batman.
Doctor, you're not suggesting those things, coughing, sneezing, volitionally
I heard
blowing
that.
out air. You're not
I was
suggesting
muted when that happened.
I'm suggesting nothing volitional.
Okay.
But that does not mean...
The rare triple rule.
That does not mean...
I wish I had some gunshots for it. Boom! Boom! Boom!
Post-mortem, considering that the person is brain dead...
This lady had to have retired shortly after this.
Or at the instant of the firing.
Shit's happening.
Yes.
So what we're talking about here
I think I'm pulling with my phone. I don't even want to miss
release
this.
of the air
This has been
that is in the lung outward
That would be a passive release, correct?
Every expiration is passive.
Don't forget,
This
we
is
still got the
really not an
members-only book club
expiration.
following
This
this
is
very shortly, guys.
You ever seen a dog dying?
Well, no, I haven't.
Well,
fuck?
that's what you see when you see an animal die. I have never seen a person die, but I can't imagine that in a person it's any different.
Okay.
When the
All right, be right back.
when life ceases, the
It's like, do
air
you like to
is-
watch dogs
that's
die?
inside is expelled.
Passively.
Well, the expiration, even during life, is always passive.
Well, what
Yes,
I
we
just,
can, if we want to, we can inhale willingly and expire willingly, but by volition. But most of our breathing is not volitional, is automatic.
I understand, but what I just did is in fact volitional, and I'm saying, all I'm asking you is, I don't want to overcomplicate this, doctor. Let's just stay simple. You're not suggesting that she coughed or sneezed or blew out air. You're saying that there was a passive reaction based on an intake of air coming out, correct? Passively.
She is putting out the contents of the airway and the mouth through a small orifice. That's what she's doing, passively. Passively, because all expiration, all, there's other words escape me for right now, but
Exhalation?
it's just a bad, it'll come to me.
Doesn't matter. All I was asking is, was it passive? I mean, it's a simple question, Doc. We're spending 10 minutes on this. All I want to know
All
was it
this
passive?
will come out when that occurs. That can occur instantaneously or right after, and it can occur seconds or minutes after.
Okay. I didn't ask you anything about when it occurred. All I'm asking you, doctor, it's very simple. Is what you're describing passive? That's all I'm asking. Yes or no?
Yeah, it's passive.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know. You based that opinion that she may have expirated blood based on your review of some slides that indicated from Dr. Pena that there was slight hemorrhage in the alveoli. Yes?
No.
Grapes.
No, that's
You
not what
indicated-
I'm basing
Starting to
that
get
on.
cold down here now. We had a hot
Yesterday
day.
that you were basing your opinion
Turn the,
that she must have
heat
expirated
off
blood on
and
the
woo!
fact that there was
Basement's
blood in
getting
the air
chilled up.
sacs.
Chilled up.
You've
And for it
forgotten
to
the
get
other
there,
half. No, yes, there is, but you've only given me half of what I said.
I'm asking you for
God
the
in the
basis of your
house.
opinion. You said that there was blood. Let's start with that, and then we'll move forward. Just
No,
answer
it can
my
make
question.
your day a little
I'm
better.
basing my opinion
Coming to the book club?
on two things.
Okay, what are the two things?
Actually,
Feel
three.
good.
On one is the description in the autopsy report where he makes the naked eye
Oh, I'm
examination
sneezing.
or the naked eye observation.
Cold.
Of the air sacs.
No, he don't see air sacs on naked eye.
Like I'm
Okay,
actually
what do you
really
see?
cold.
He describes under the segment where he describes the lung that there is what I think he's called aspirated blood in both lungs.
Wait, you indicate that he said it was aspirated blood?
That if I'm, would you show me the autopsy report?
Be glad.
This guy's getting mad.
May I?
Yes.
Didn't even ring a bell for this one. Think we need to ring a bell? Ladies and gentlemen, in this corner, from Los Angeles, California, Alan Jackson. Action Jackson, if you will. And in this corner, from wherever he damn well plays as,
No,
Dr. Warner Spence.
Yes.
Says, I knew everything before anything knew anybody. I may be God himself.
I'm sober enough
one
to know
place
what
that I
I'm
just
doing,
happened.
and I'm drunk enough to really enjoy doing it.
This is gun country.
It is gun country, though.
I'm telling you like it is,
To
baby.
open on page 614. The visceral, that's V-I-S.
I'm not going to ask you to read it. That would be hearsay. What I'm asking you to do, if you wouldn't mind, and this is just a technical thing, just read it over to yourself.
I did.
And then tell me, the simple question again, I don't want to overcomplicate things. We're tending to overcomplicate things. Just tell me very quickly, very succinctly, what do you base your opinion on that she expirated blood?
I will tell you again what I told you yesterday, that there is extensive
Was he from Poland originally and then went to college in Switzerland or something?
Bottom.
He's a world-traveled man.
Deepest portions of both lungs. As described on page 614 in the autopsy report, and also described elsewhere in the autopsy report, but this is a good description.
All right.
And then it describes it again in the microscopic examination.
Okay, and again, those...
Hang
on just a second, let me ask you a question.
No, excuse me, but you asked him what he's basing his opinion on, so now he's got to be allowed to explain what he's basing it on.
Sure, I just don't want to get off the field. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't think it is off field at this point. Go ahead.
In the microscopic examination, which is the examination of tissue that you took out from those areas that you described with the naked eye, and had the technician prepare slides which he examined under the microscope, and he describes there that there is hemorrhage within the air sacs in those areas described earlier.
I love the way he says air sacs.
There's no indication of slight, like you indicated earlier. There's no indication of anything other by the description of this being a large amount of blood in the bottom portion of the lungs.
Did you ever talk to Dr. Pena?
No, I did not. I don't remember if I talked to him or not. I don't think I did.
You looked at the slides, though, correct?
I did look at the slides.
All right, what you've just described to the jurors, let's put this in English. You've described to the jurors a couple of different ways that Dr. Pena looked at the lungs, one visually, grossly, and one, he took a sample and looked at it under a slide. And what was looked at under the slide was the alveoli, yes?
Well, it would be lung tissue, which includes the air sacs, the alveoli.
Sounds like an Italian dish.
When it all boils down to the English interpretation, if you will, as opposed to the medical,
I'll have the alveoli.
You're basing your opinion on the fact that there was blood.
A little bit of alveoli for the table, eh?
Correct?
Yeah, but not only there's blood in the air sacs, there is a lot of blood in the air sacs taking up large areas.
Okay. Now, let me use the Elmo. I'm going to mark a couple of things real quick. Okay. So this isn't completely...
Your next is 166.
166. I'll place a 166 on the bottom right-hand corner of the first document and a P167 on the second document. We might actually be able to put these up.
What's Phil doing? Oh, God in heaven.
Well, 166 looks like this.
Looking the same. Gouled up from the floor up. Look at him. Looks like a cyborg.
The diagram of the lung and the interior of the lung.
Yeah, and this one's pink. There's a second diagram that's the same. A little bit more detailed, but basically the same thing. That may be a
this
little
week
bit
on Feral Friday, Mo in the deep end is coming on for her first Feral Friday. It's gonna be good, and we're watching Angus, 1995 comedy. I haven't watched since I was a kid. She recommended it, and I was like, you know what? Because I told her to pick some movies. I was going to pick some movies and do the whole voting thing. After she said that, I was like, you know what? No, let's just do that. That's going to be a fun one. And very different. Who remembers Angus?
Rudimentary, but it may serve our purposes, Doctor, for our discussion. This is a diagram.
Sort of a coming of age.
A drawn diagram of a couple of lungs, right?
Yes.
All right. And then there's a highlighted section, as a matter of fact, the section right here that
Lauren Conlon will be on Feral Friday in 2 weeks.
The alveoli, the grapes, right?
Well, I've seen better pictures, but this is okay.
All right, but the jurors can understand it. Those are the air sacs, right?
Yes.
And they're tiny. I mean, obviously, that's an inset.
The air sacs, to make it simple, are the little sacs where the oxygen is taken up from the air that we breathe at the very bottom of the
The branches.
lung structure.
I like that one and part 2.
Let me move on
part
to a
2 is
different
really
question.
good too.
You
the
indicated
original is
yesterday
one of those
and
movies
today
you can just put on
that you
anytime.
believe that there may
Good
have
to
been
go.
expirated blood, in part due to what you saw in the air sacs, the blood that you saw in the air sacs. Correct?
Yes, as a result of an expulsion of fluids from the mouth after the shot. Sometime after the shot.
Okay.
I don't know when, but
Doctor,
as I
do me a
said,
favor, doctor. Listen to my question. You may have answered it with the first syllable. I'm not asking for an explanation. You are basing your opinion that there may have been expirated blood on the
She's ready for the book club.
Of the existence.
We're about 15 minutes away from a book club party. Members only.
Correct.
well, not only, but that's
You get carded at the
obviously you
door.
need
They
a
check for the
clause
membership.
in
I'm
order
not-
for that to happen.
Mr. Plord asked you
That's
yesterday,
them's the rules.
did you find anything physically to support your conclusion that she may have expirated blood? And you said, yes, physically, I saw blood in the lungs.
Exactly.
All right. Now, you left out yesterday the other explanation for how blood could get in those air sacs, didn't you?
I don't know what that is.
All right. Lana Clarkson was generally upright after she was killed. Yes?
But she was like you showed her in the picture just a little while ago.
And that would be upright. In other words, her head is above her feet. Actually, her head is above her shoulders, which is above her torso, which is above her hips, which is above her knees, which is above her feet. Basically on an angle.
She was exactly as shown on the picture.
I realize
with
that.
her head to, I think, the left side.
Okay. What I'm asking you is, she was generally upright. Yes or no?
Yes, she was like shown in the picture.
Which is generally
That's upright, that's upright.
All right, fine.
Upright, I consider somebody standing up, but if you ask me how she was just like the jury would have seen and judged her position based on the picture.
What happens to the esophagus, the vocal cords, the internal mechanisms? What happens to those after her spine was transected? Do they remain taut and tight, or do they become flaccid?
The esophagus is a muscle, and it probably will be relaxed. It's always closed unless you swallow, and probably would be halfway closed, but not directly open.
All right.
The
Basically,
esophagus is a soft, muscular tube, and when it's not used, it just tends to
relax,
but there would be a passage in it if I put a probe through it, but otherwise, technically, it's shut.
Actually, the reality is, once it relaxes and becomes flaccid, it opens. Isn't that true?
The esophagus?
The esophagus, the vocal cords, the airways, they all just relax and become
the vocal cords
flaccid.
don't open. The vocal cords are inside of the voice box, and the voice box, as you know, if you touch your own voice box, it's gristle, and there's no, the gristle holds it at all times at a certain caliber.
She was shot in the back of the throat, correct?
Yes.
I mean, that's a very general description, but it was the back of the throat.
Yes.
She would have bled from the back of the throat, correct?
She what?
She would have bled
Yes.
from the back of the throat.
Right.
Even after death, the bleeding, some bleeding, would continue down the back of the throat. Correct?
Well, it would continue, some of it down the back of the throat,
Right.
some of it into the mouth. It would go where the point of least resistance is.
And of course, gravity would pull the blood down the back of the throat and some of that blood into the esophageal passage, correct?
Well, I did not see any mention of blood down the esophagus in the autopsy report.
And in fact, it would go down into the airways as well, correct? Just by gravity. I mean, it's just liquid blood flowing into the airways. She's dead. She's not moving.
It would go into, yes, some of it would go into the upper airway.
And some of that blood would go into the primary bronchial tubes, correct?
Oh God, we're working on one. We're like 3 names away
The main airways.
from a wheel spin.
Less.
Some of it would go into the
Everybody's coming through
secondary
tonight.
bronchial
Really appreciate
tubes.
it, guys.
I would put a maybe on that.
Some of it would go into the tertiary bronchial tubes.
No.
And of course, connected to the tertiary bronchial tubes are what?
Are the alveoli.
Yeah.
And they do not go into the alveoli. I described all that the other day.
I'm asking you right now, I'm not worried about what you described the other day, doctor. I'm asking you right now, based on just static bleeding, some of that blood
Get a sip of water,
that she's bleeding
Jackson.
from the back of the throat would, by gravity, be drawn down into the throat, drawn down into the air passages, down into the lungs, and would certainly seep down into the alveoli.
No, that's not what happens.
In fact, isn't it true? Are you sure about that?
I'm sure of that, yes.
All right, and you believe that in the medical community, the forensic science community, that others would agree with you?
You know, I don't know. I didn't make a poll of who does and who doesn't, but I can tell you that in my experience with a fair number of autopsies that I've done over time, and with a lot of trauma cases, in order for blood to occur in quantities in the bottom portion of the lung, in the air sacs, on both sides of the lung, that will not happen by gravity.
And in fact, isn't it true, doctor, that Lana Clarkson remained in that position that we saw, with blood draining from the back of her throat, down into the air passages, into the primary, the secondary, the tertiary bronchi, all the way down into the alveoli for 12 hours before she was moved? Isn't that true?
No.
12 hours.
No, you made up my testimony, and that's not fair.
Is it true or is it not true? If you don't agree with it, doctor, you can say, no, I don't agree.
I discouraged you from saying that it goes down the tertiary bronchioles earlier. I agree that some of it will go down the upper airway, but it will not go down all the way down into the end of the lung, almost to the air sacs, and then, like you said earlier, into the air sacs. It does not do that by gravity.
She was in that position for some 12 hours.
I don't care what position she is.
Doctor, I'm not arguing with you. I'm going to ask you kindly not to argue with me. Okay?
No, I don't argue with you, but
Doctor,
don't
there's
put
no-
words
there's
in my
no
mouth.
question.
Gentlemen, doctor, what you need to do is just listen to the question. You can agree with it, disagree. If an explanation is necessary, I'll allow you to do that.
Shit. Here we go again.
What?
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
Damn. We get rowdy up in here, bro.
Allow him to
Next
ask his
round.
question. Go ahead and ask the question.
Are you aware that she remained in that position that we saw in the photograph for 12 hours?
Of course, because that's how the picture was taken.
Now, you indicated, Doctor, that there was certain physical evidence. I think that was the answer to a question by Mr. Poor, that there was certain physical evidence that convinced you that Lana Clarkson fired the weapon. Yes?
Yes.
Tell the jurors what that physical evidence is. What is that evidence?
She had gunpowder on her hands.
It's a
She had
GSR.
I'm sorry?
What you're calling GSR?
Yes.
Okay.
She had blood on her hands. She had tissue on her clothes. She had on her sleeves. She had well, primarily she had a gunshot wound in the mouth.
Dude, that was one of my favorite parts of this entire trial.
Intraoral gunshot wound. And there was other manifestations that I
Don't be
indicated.
mean. And I think ultimately they were both confused.
There is no one else that meets those qualifications that I'm aware of.
Okay, so if I get your testimony correct, Doctor, the physical evidence that you base your opinion on that she fired the weapon is blood on her hands. I'm sorry, let's start at the beginning. GSR, blood on her hands, tissue on her sleeves, and intraoral, and the fact that it was an intraoral gunshot wound. Yes? Those are the four
Yes.
things you just told us. All right, let's start with the last one first. Intraoral gunshot wound, that's not physical evidence. That has nothing to do with anything, right?
Well, it caused.
Excuse me, he's asking a question. The objection is overruled.
the intraoral nature of the gunshot wound is not physical evidence, so we can dispose of that one for this discussion, correct?
I don't know, why is this not physical evidence?
The fact that a statistic that you're using, doctor, most people are right-handed, correct?
I am not using statistics.
But you indicated that it's the fact that it's an intraoral gunshot wound is a physical item of evidence that shows that she pulled the trigger. Is that what you're saying?
Well, if you call that statistic, so be it, because yes, she would have fired the gun in her own mouth more likely than somebody else would have done that.
Okay.
Much more likely. I mean, when we talk about in excess of 99%, we talk about a substantial prevalence of suicide or self-inflicted wounds when they occur in the mouth.
Right, but of course you conceded yesterday that there are some intraoral gunshot wounds that are homicides, where somebody else puts the gun in the mouth and fires. You're aware of those, right?
I'm not suggesting that that's not possible.
Okay.
I'm just suggesting to you that that's extremely rare.
Okay, so that is in fact not physical evidence that you rely on to make a determination that she actually had her finger on the trigger. That's what I'm asking about, all right? But the blood spatter, the tissue, and the GSR is, correct?
No. I disagree with that.
Well, I'm just repeating what you just said. You said there were four things that are physical evidence.
I disagree with that. The fact that there is a
This is confusing,
intraoral
dude.
gunshot wound.
Very confusing.
First, and
Damn, Lakota helping us out two-way now. Thanks to Lakota. Thanks for being here. First of all, lurking back there. Lakota coming through the old Cash App with a $5 holler. And being super kind as well, said, add Oasis Cat, please and thank you. You got that, Lakota. Lakota is a G around here. She's been around for a long time. Thank you so much, Lakota. I appreciate that. Boom.
foremost suggests a self-inflicted wound. I don't stop there. I look for other information. And when all the information meets, then that becomes scientific evidence.
I'm asking you, doctor, we can do this all day long.
He will, too.
Very specifically, what is the physical evidence that you relied on? This is based on Mr. Plord's question yesterday. Very simple. What is the physical evidence that you relied on that leads you to conclude that her finger was on the trigger at the time of discharge? And you gave me four things: GSR on her hands, blood on her hands, tissue on her sleeves, and then you threw in intraoral gunshot wound. All I'm saying is,
and
isn't
for
it
one
true?
more, there's another one.
Okay.
I'd put that in too. But there's no one else that qualifies.
Okay, and that, of course, is not physical evidence either. That's a conclusion. I'm asking for physical evidence, doctor.
I'm trying. I know what you.
For a second, just to move this forward, do you consider the fact that no one else qualifies to be physical evidence? In your mind, just yes or no?
Yes, I think I
Okay.
do.
Do you consider the fact that it was an intraoral gunshot wound in your mind to be physical evidence?
Yes, I do.
All right, now we can move forward.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification, Your Honor.
Wow, he's the
Let's
best
talk
judge
about
of all
that
time.
physical
Tell me I'm wrong. Judge Diehard coming the fuck through. He's like, I'm tired of this shit, and we're going to get to the bottom of it.
Hey, motherfucker.
evidence.
Out of here.
Starting with the blood on her hands. You're aware that Jamie Lintamoot is the criminalist who saw and noted
Yeah, we are
the
about
blood
to go
on
to
her
members
hands.
only.
You're correct. You're
the book
aware that she
club.
testified that the blood was on her right wrist, high velocity, what she considered to be high velocity backspatter was on her right wrist in this area that I'm pointing to here, and on her left wrist in this area that I'm pointing to here, correct?
Okay.
I think by the use of the qualifiers that the objection is sustained, and we're going to take our
He's
recess
rubbing his
at this
eyes.
time.
He's like, we need to
Ladies and
just
gentlemen, keep in
chill
mind
the
the
fuck
admonition,
out.
15 minutes. Thank
Dude,
you.
part 7, Dr. Warner Spitz, will start the show. How long is that going to be on Sunday? It's an hour. Dude, I may do I don't have a Thursday plan. I've got a bunch of stuff Friday and Sunday I got shows planned, but Thursday I don't have anything planned yet. I may go another day with this. This one's really freaking entertaining. I'm enjoying this back and forth. Yeah. Thanks everyone for being here. We almost got to a will. Hopefully we'll continue that thing. Thursday. But anyone that is we're not done here. Some people may be done. if you're not membered up, if you're not part of the Buzz Nation book club. But if you are, we're about to go over. We've started a book. We've read the first 2 chapters. Got a bunch of notes. I want everyone to bring their opinions, drop them in the chat. Yeah. What was it? The Murderer Beside Me. The Stranger Beside Me. I've already forgotten the name of the book. The Stranger Beside Me. Yeah, and you still have time to get in here. Yeah, if you wanted to jump in the next week, make sure you catch up. Right now we're doing 2 chapters a week, but yeah, we're just starting this. The flow's just happening. I've never had a book club before. I've never been a part of a book club, so yeah, I'm excited to get in here. Man, this was a fucking good show, bro. This was a good one. I really appreciate it. Appreciate everyone for coming through here. Judge Die Hard, the absolute king in the streets, huh? Not messing around.
This is gun country.
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Dude, Cheney, thank you so much. But make sure, Thursday, come back through for sure. I'll be doing something per the usual. But Friday night, Mo. Anybody that's watched any of the past Mo shows with maybe the Sarah Boone. We watched that interrogation with the fucking cannibal. We'll know that she's amazing. She's hilarious. She's fucking one of the real ones. She's dope as hell. And yeah, she's coming on for Frill Friday, which I'm super excited for. We're going to be watching a movie called Angus from 1995. It's like a coming-of-age comedy. It's going to be fucking good. It's going to be fun. But everybody, right now, what we're doing, part of the book club, come on over. We're going to be discussing it. I got literally way too many notes. We're going to be talking, hanging out. Let's go. Thank y'all. Boom.
This verse